Customizing cars is one of the most interesting things you can do in Grand Theft Auto 5, but sometimes the modifications we have just get so old so quickly. I'm tired of putting carbon bumpers and vented hoods on my sports car. Instead, I want to have more unique customizations like the Cheburek. Now I'm sure everyone at this point knows that the Cheburek has cardboard modifications, which is part of the reason it's so unique. I mean, look at these. That being said, cardboard modifications aren't the only rare modification at LSC. For example, could you name the 20 vehicles that have a wheelie bar modification? What about the 12 vehicles that allow you to put a surfboard on the roof? And even if you knew all of those, I'm certain you can't name all 6 vehicles that have a drift charm modification, or the 3 that have a hood ornament modification. Starting off, if you enjoy feeling the torque of a muscle car lift the front end off the ground, but don't want to damage your rear bumper, consider these 20 vehicles, which have a wheelie bar modification available. They include the Apocalypse Impaler and Nightmare Impaler, all 3 Arena War versions of the Slam Van, the Buccaneer, the Chino, the Dukes, the regular Impaler, the Lurcher, the Nightshade, the Sabre Turbo, and the Vigero. Now, though a wheelie bar might limit the height of your wheeling ability, it does make for a good looking drag car build. But if you kept count with me, you'll notice that I only mentioned 13 vehicles, and I said there was 20. Well, that's because there's a rare version of this customization available on the other 7. These vehicles not only feature a wheelie bar, but also a parachute bag. The Beater Dukes features the option to have a wheelie bar by itself and the combo of a bar and a parachute bag. This is also available on the Vamos. The Gauntlet Hellfire, Gauntlet Interceptor, Impaler SZ, and Tulip M100 sadly force you to have a wheelie bar and parachute bag at the exact same time. And finally, the Gauntlet Classic Custom gives you the option to have the wheelie bar by itself, the wheelie bar and parachute bag combo, and is the only vehicle in the entire game to allow you to have a parachute bag without a wheelie bar, making it the most unique vehicle of this set. Moving in a different direction, there are quite a few trucks in the game. However, some people really enjoy having their beds more protected from the elements and thieves, which is where bed covers might come in handy. Unfortunately, from the entire range of pickup trucks, only 17 vehicles have the option to add or remove the bed cover, which can include a basic tonneau cover or a bed cap as well. These include the Boar, the Contender, the Cara 4x4, the Everon, the Patriot Mil-Spec, the Riata, the Rusty Rebel, the Sand King SWB and XL, regular Yosemite, the Drift Yosemite and Yosemite Rancher, the Picador, the Walton L35, and the Squatty, which I almost didn't count, but I thought I'd mention it because it does go over the top of the box. Aside from the trucks, you can also get a bed cover on the Apocalypse Scarab and the Nightmare Scarab, though these versions of the Scarab have more rare customizations than just a simple bed cover. In the event you somehow manage to get this tank stuck, it also has the ability to carry tools on its body, which could help in a real-world situation. This simple shovel-axe combo can be seen on 14 other vehicles. These vehicles include the Barrage, the Boar, the Castigator, the Camacho, the Menacer, the Monstrosity, the newer Terminus, the Virus, the Walton L35, both the Weevil and the Weevil Custom, the Winky, the Yosemite Rancher, and finally the Zaba, which again you'd have a hard time getting stuck, and these tools probably wouldn't help you too much. Los Santos spends over 90% of its year in nice sunny summer conditions, with the large Vespucci Beach right at its fingertips. Now, although we don't have the ability to go surfing in the game, sometimes you just need a vehicle to fit that beach vibe, and adding a surfboard to the top makes the next 12 vehicles a perfect contender for a beach day, including the Brigham, the Castigator, the Eudora, the Fagaloa, the Impaler LX, both the Issy Classic and the Issy Rally, the Reinhardt, the family Vivinite, the Weevil and Weevil Custom, and finally comes the very fitting Surfer Custom. Now, modifications don't have to add ridiculous things to the exterior of the vehicle, and for those looking for a rare modification for their clean builds, consider looking under the vehicle at the gas tank. Despite every vehicle having a gas tank, only 10 vehicles allow you to change the style of the gas tank, excluding motorbikes. This can be the style or the color of the gas tank under the vehicle. And the 10 vehicles primarily consist of Benny's custom variants, such as the Buccaneer Custom, the Glendale Custom, the Manana Custom, the Peyote Custom, the Primo Custom, the Tornado Custom, the Virgo Classic Custom, and the Voodoo Custom. However, there is 2 vehicles that have unique gas tanks available in Los Santos Customs, rather than Benny's original Motorworks. Doubling as a sidestep option, the Sand King SWB and Sand King XL have gas tanks fitted to the sides of the truck for easy access. The only type of gas tank that I'm not mentioning in this video is the addition of fuel cells, which can be fitted in the back seat or trunk of certain cars, and the bed of many trucks. This is a much more common customization, but if you want a list, perhaps I can make one day. Now, a question I can already see almost everyone asking is, how did I find all the information to make a video this specific? Well, over the last 8 months, I've taken the time out of my days to customize and sort every single vehicle and every single unique modification in the entire game, using a massive spreadsheet. This means that I'm going to have many more videos of rare customization and unique vehicle facts, such as how you can add an anime body pillow to the backseat of the Zion Classic by adding the Princess Bubblegum livery. So, if you want even more unique customization facts like the 6 cars that feature drift charms, or the only vehicle in the game to feature a front spoiler, consider subscribing as I'll be covering a lot more in future videos. Moving on to a much more subtle modification option is the addition of a simple hood bra or bug deflector. Now, as much as many people probably overlook this minor addition, it's actually only available on 10 vehicles, which means many people might not even know about it. These vehicles include the Asbo, the Acia, which received it long after the release of the game, the Ballisticanjo, the Off-Road Everon and Free Crawler, the Granger 3600 LX, the Pagali, and a few other off-roaders including the Riata, the Seminole Frontier, and the Yosemite Rancher. Roughly a year ago, I mentioned how rare active spoilers were in the game, as they're only found on 21 different vehicles. But after conducting my research for this video, I found that it isn't even the rarest type of spoiler. Some vehicles, like the Brioso 300 widebody, have dual split spoilers, where you have mini spoilers on either side of the vehicle. Other vehicles, like the Krieger, have fins on either side of the vehicle as a spoiler option. These 2 classifications are what I'm calling split spoilers. You can also find these styles on the Devastate 8, the Draugr, the Ignis, the Itali RSX, the Pipistrello, the Tesseract, the Turismo R, and finally the Xeno. Now, have you ever been in a vehicle with that one friend that just doesn't quite know where their wheels are, and every so often you get a little curb check? Well, perhaps you should suggest that they install some curb feelers, which allow lowrider style vehicles to tell when they're approaching the curb. In GTA 5, they're nothing but cosmetic and can be found on the Buccaneer Custom, the Chino, the Manana, the Peyote and Peyote Custom, the Virgo, Virgo Classic Custom, as well as the Voodoo Custom. Surprisingly, this list has been the same for many years and is unlikely to see any new additions before GTA 6. Now, if you've ever watched a movie based in Texas, you'll see that bull horns being attached to the front grille or hood of a vehicle, specifically large trucks, is a very common occurrence. As for those players who like to recreate such a design in Los Santos, they would be limited to only 7 vehicles. 6 of these vehicles are different Arena War variants, including the Apocalypse and Nightmare Bruiser, the Apocalypse and Nightmare Imperator, and the Apocalypse and Nightmare Slam Van. Anyone who's played story mode will know very quickly the next vehicle we're going to mention is Trevor's Bodie. Trevor's truck is the host of many unique modifications, but not only is it on the list of vehicles with horns on the hood, but it's the only vehicle to feature horns on the roof as well. Over 50 different vehicles in the game feature Ka-nards or Caynrds on their bumpers and splitters, which by no means qualifies it to be mentioned in this video. However, only 8 vehicles feature the exact same Caynrds on the rear of the vehicle rather than the front. Am I pronouncing that word correctly? Because I honestly don't know. These vehicles include the Coquette D10, the Corsita, the Dominator GT, the Komoda, the Sentinel XS, the Sugoi, Tailgater S, and finally the Virtue. Even with the new addition of 3 more drift cars last week, there's still only 6 vehicles that you can add an official drift charm to the back bumper. As you can see, you can have a drift charm on the Ballista Canjo, Warner HKR, and the Post Lid, which actually have drift charms that react to the movement of the vehicle, which makes them unique. The Warner, however, has a very stationary and static charm that is basically just stuck in place and doesn't move at all. Finally, the Futo has the same static style, and the Futo GTX has the reactionary charm. But the Futos are the only drift vehicles that currently have this option, which is kind of disappointing. Maybe they could just add this to some of the other drift cars? Contrary to the previously mentioned surfboards, for those looking for something to do that other 10% of the time when it snows in San Andreas, consider purchasing a vehicle for your next skiing adventure. There are roof racks specializing in hauling skis available on the Everon, the Fagaloa, the Issy Classic, the Landstalker XL, the Nebula Turbo, and last but not least, the Pagani, which probably isn't your best choice in the winter given that it's front-wheel drive. Oh, it looks like we have something on the screen. Luckily, similar to almost every vehicle in existence, this video is equipped with windshield wipers. Let me just... There we go. Now, despite almost every vehicle having windshield wipers, there are some that actually have them as a customization feature, either changing the coloring, styling, or adding headlight wipers. You're actually able to change the color of the windshield wipers on the Primo Custom and the Virgo Classic Custom, which also have chrome options. Meanwhile, headlight wipers can be added to the Sentinel Classic, the upcoming Uranus Laws Speed, and the Zion Classic. And now we start to move on to some actually rare modifications that are only featured on 3 or less vehicles, including the tail antenna, which can only be found on the Coquette D1, the Greenwood, and the Impaler LX, which adds style in a classic way to the rear of the vehicle. Moving to the front of the vehicle, but staying in a similar theme, is the addition of hood ornaments. Now, a couple vehicles in the game have hood ornaments, but only these 3 vehicles can have them as a modification option. The Roosevelt Valor has 3 options in total. The Vorschlag Hammer has the same option in different colors. And finally, the Weevil Custom has an entire array of different hood ornaments you can add, including skulls, diamonds, logos, the Grim Reaper. Take your pick, because it's got all sorts of hood ornaments. Barbed wire is not a modification on the Armored Boxville, so it won't be counting for this list. However, there are 5 vehicles that give you the option to add or remove barbed wire, including the Apocalypse and Nightmare Brutus on its front grille, the Apocalypse and Nightmare Sasquatch on one of its push bars, and finally the Pounder Custom. And believe it or not, the barbed wire on the roof of the Pounder Custom actually gives the vehicle the added benefit of a spoiler, which kind of makes it one of the most unique spoilers in the game. Weird, isn't it? Now, we've talked about lowriders, and we've talked about off-road cars, and we've talked about drift cars. But what about people who like a little bit more excitement on the dirt? Rally cars are a big area of interest among the racing community. Now, although there's plenty of cars with rally kits and other rally add-ons, there are only 3 vehicles that feature the Rallye De Paleto license plates. The Briosa 300 can be registered with this plate for that particular rally, as can its wide-body variant. Lastly, the Fagaloa also has the option to register with some covered rally lights as well, and it features the only Rallye De Paleto livery in the entire game. Moving on to the final 5 modifications I'll be mentioning in this video, there's only 2 vehicles that feature chrome fender flames as a trim option, including the Manana on its front fender and the Picador on its rear fender, which received this option a few years after its release. Similarly, 82 vehicles have flames featured on their liveries, which I might cover in a future video, since I've also researched every single livery. Surprisingly, we're circling back to Caynrds. Caynrds? Whatever. I've already mentioned Caynrds on the front bumper and splitter and on the rear, so where else could they possibly be? Well, both the Niobe and the Xeno have options to attach Caynrds to the side of the vehicle, which I thought was pretty interesting. And finally, we have 3 simple modifications that are only available on 1 vehicle each, starting with the ability to make the Hustler into a Salt Flats racer. That's right, the Hustler is the only vehicle in the entire game to feature a salty modifications, from a grille to salt-covered fenders with its livery, which is fairly unique as we normally only see rusty versions of these modifications, and it's a good change of pace for a specific build. The Broadway actually sees the addition of a vintage AC cooling fan and has two options for it. This gets attached to the passenger door, allowing cool air to travel into the vehicle on hot days while traveling down the road, which made taxi experiences a lot more enjoyable before the days of AC. And then we have another rare spoiler modification. And no, it's not that one, that's just a basic spoiler. But on the other end of the Torero is actually a front-mounted spoiler on its trunk. This type of spoiler can also be seen on its real-world counterpart, and helps provide downforce to the front wheels of the vehicle. I suppose that wings on the front end of F1 cars also count as spoilers, but that's not the same. Now, for the music lovers out there, how many vehicles do you think have the option to add unique speakers or subwoofers to the vehicle? Let me know how many you think it is in the comments below, and I'll be sure to start off next video with that exact fact.